Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to do something a little bit different and show you how to do corridors with BricsCAD. A little bit different software, but same outcome. And so let's pay attention to Casey as he shows us how to create corridors and all the settings in that, but doing it through BricsCAD. Let's learn.
Welcome back, guys. It's Casey. Today we're going to be playing with BricsCAD and trying to create a road corridor using BricsCAD combined with Civil Site Design for BricsCAD. And we're going to be going through the process from step one in order to demonstrate how to make a corridor in BricsCAD. Just keep in mind that I'm a little bit inexperienced, as you may be, so just bear with me. But after playing with BricsCAD for a little bit, we've come to the conclusion that corridors might be much faster using BricsCAD, so we're going to try and demonstrate some of the key features for corridors and roads so that you can play with them yourself, figure out how to use them, and potentially improve your workflow process using BricsCAD with Civil Site Design instead of AutoCAD with Civil 3D. So to start off here, we have our polyline here. So I'm going to drag over this properties pane. This is our polyline here. This is the center line of the kind of center road here on the site that we want to make into a corridor. So to make the alignment, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to navigate to this alignments tab here at the top. I'm going to select create alignment. It's going to ask me, do I want to make a new Civil Site Design project name, which is fine. It's going to require that you do this to use them, so I'm just going to punch in the project name and then hit create project. Once it's creating, I believe it's going to take a minute or two. Here we go. Should be able to open up my tool space here now. Same exact thing as Civil 3D as far as tool space goes, except obviously some of the words for different entities are different and whatnot, but it's effectively the same thing. So I'm just going to move that over to my other monitor here. All right, and then I'm going to hit create alignment. Okay, it's going to say select polyline to use, so I'm going to grab this guy. Okay, and I'm going to name this alignment. We're just going to name it Center Road. The object type is going to be, we're going to leave that blank for now, see what happens. Sections list, we're going to leave both of these as blank for the time being. And then we're going to go ahead, we're going to go to colors. It looks like what it tends to do is change the colors of all the different arcs and stuff for the line. So I'm not so sure that I want it to do that. So I'm just going to make a new alignment color style that I'm just going to name CVLX. Okay, and then when I'm in that style, I'm going to hit set layers and colors, and then I think I'm just going to grab all of them and I'm just going to set them to be by layer, which it won't let me do. Okay, well, let's see if it lets us do by block. By block, no. All right, that's fine. We're just going to grab them all and make them all the color 150. It's typically the color that we use for the center line of our road, so I'll just make it all that color, which that did not seem to work, so we're going to try it one more time. Here we go. Okay. Looks like we have to grab all of them, so we're just going to grab all of them, and then I'm going to hit this little checkbox here to select all of them. That should do this multiple edit. There we go. Okay, perfect. And then the line type, we're just going to make it a dashed line type for everything. So again, multiple edit. We'll make it -2. Then we're going to go ahead and look at the alignment table, curve table, all that stuff. We're going to leave alone for the time being and just hit OK. Cool. Now we've got what seems to be an alignment. It seems that all the special entities in BricsCAD, such as alignments, surfaces, is all just called an M-line for multi-line. So that's what it's showing as in the property or in the properties pane here. Now I need to make the surface. So we have a Civil 3D surface entity. So I'm going to take a look at that and see if we can convert it into a Civil Site Design surface. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that guy on. So if I hover over it, it does say that it is an AECC 10 surface here, which is not exactly what we want. I want to drag my properties pane back. There we go. So I'm going to click on this guy. I'm going to go to surfaces. And I'm going to see if we have some sort of way to convert our Civil 3D surface into a civil site design surface. Okay, so we've got our surface from our Civil 3D, and to convert it, we're just going to run the command civil 3D import. And then we're going to select convert from current drawing because we already have the Civil 3D surface in our drawing. Then it's going to show all the Civil 3D entities that it recognizes in the drawing. So this one here is this EG surface. So I'm just going to deselect everything else here because I only want to import this EG surface. There are no Civil 3D labels on this surface, but I'm just going to go ahead and deselect this box too that says import Civil 3D labels as blocks because I just don't really want that. And then I'm going to throw this surface on this CZ existing surface, name it BCAD. Then I'm just going to go ahead and press OK. Let it load here. Okay, so when I grab it, now it's on this layer that just got made, and now it's a BricsCAD surface, so it's a tin surface. But unfortunately, BricsCAD surfaces are also different from civil site design surfaces. So that's kind of one of the drawbacks of the BricsCAD civil site design combination versus AutoCAD Civil 3D combination. But they do have a command built in here, this BricsCAD surface thing here. So if I click this button, it's going to allow me to create a surface exchange. So I'm just going to remove the one that I did before, and I can select add surface exchange, BricsCAD to civil site design surface, and then I should be able, it's going to select the BricsCAD surface, which is EG1, and I'm going to name this guy CSD EG, and then select add item, and then I'm going to hit build/update, let it work for a minute. Maybe update it one more time. Okay, and now that we've kind of let it load and load up for a second, you'll see now that we have this. So I'm just going to go ahead and freeze this layer that I created, that guy. We're going to freeze. Okay, now we have this surface here, and as I said before, everything is in inline. But if I drag over the tool space, you'll see that under CSD surfaces, we have our BricsCAD CSD EG surface, which I hope, haven't tested this, but I'm going to assume that this references the BricsCAD surface. So if the BricsCAD surface changes, then this guy should update. But either way, now we have our surface located in the file. I'm just going to go ahead and change the color of that back to the 256 color, or excuse me, 56 color. Which didn't change the colors of it. That's fine. We'll leave it alone for now. So now we have our surface located in here, so I'm just going to go ahead and freeze that as well. Okay. So we have our alignment created. We have our surface created. So now we should be able to create a road. So in civil site design, they don't really have corridors. BricsCAD as the base software does have corridors. But civil site design uses alignments to create a variety of different things, including just roads. So they have an entire tab dedicated to roads. They also have an entire tab dedicated to gravity storm lines, sanitary sewer lines, etc., which all of those historically, at least in AutoCAD and Civil 3D, reference alignments. So I'm going to assume that they reference alignments as well in BricsCAD. But we're going to focus on the roads thing here for this video. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a road string. So I'm just going to select road string, and then I'm going to select the default surface, which is going to be our EG surface, which it looks like it's going to turn back on. And then to select the alignment, I can either select it or just press enter to grab from a list. So I'm just going to press enter. I'm going to grab that guy, which is this one right there, and then press OK. Okay, now it's going to ask me for our design parameters, which is for our, it's essentially, it's asking us for our template. In Civil 3D, this is known as your assembly. It's the same thing. So I'm just going to close out of this real quick just to look at the width of the road and just see what's needed for the template. So it looks like we're missing a little bit of the face of curb here. So I'm just going to offset this by 1/2 foot just so we have our face of curb. And I'm just going to measure the distance from the edge of travelway perpendicular to the other edge of travelway, like that, and look, and that is 27 feet. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that guy. And then in order to make our template, I believe we're going to have to pull up back in our tool space. So what we should be able to do for the template and or assembly is come to our roads tab, and over here on the left we have this section templates button here, so we can click this guy to create or edit new section templates. That's going to open up this template editor here. They have a bunch of different ones that you can choose from, so I can hit select template, and they have this really big list here. But I'm just going to go ahead and select template options, and I'm going to create a new template in local library. So all of your templates are stored in either a local or global library. The local ones are stored like within the file itself, I believe. Then the global library would be templates that are stored like effectively in our server at Civil Logistics. So we might at some point have an entire database of templates / assemblies in this, in air quotes, global library located on our server, so that we can use the same templates and templates / assemblies for more projects moving forward. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit create new. The new template, I'm going to name it to be give me information about the cross section, which is 27 foot edge of travelway to edge of travelway, and then 2 foot curb and gutter. And I'm just going to go ahead and press OK. Then it's going to ask me to add a variety of different things. So I'm going to have to remove and add all these different pieces on the left. So this looks like it's on the left side, and then this is on the right side. So I should be able to hit this create section button here, and then I can punch in a code for the section, which I can then re-enter the code later on. So I'm just going to put edge of travelway, and I'm going to have the width of the section be 13.5 and apply to both sides such that the total width is 27 feet. And then the applied grade is going to be 2%. So I'm going to have the road essentially, it's going to be a crown road with a cross slope of 2% on each side. And then as far as the subgrade layers go, I'm going to leave that alone mostly. Maybe I'll do like a 6-inch depth for the first layer and a foot depth for the second layer, just so that it looks okay. That looks a little strange, so we're just going to go ahead and we're going to hit edit section. So it's going to ask us to select a section to edit. So I suppose we're going to select this guy here. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to edit section, and then we're going to select this section here. That's going to open this up again. So I really want this to be 0.5 and not 0.5. Apply subgrade edits to both subgrades, yes. Apply exit. Okay, cool. So now we have our road here. So now we should be able to create a new curb. So I'm just going to go ahead and select create curb. And then it's going to allow me to create the curb. So our curb is typically 2 foot curb and gutter. So the curb depth itself typically isn't that important, but let's just say it's, I could go ahead and pull up our detail. I'm just going to pull up our detail really quick so we can go based off of that. Alright, so now we have our curb and gutter detail pulled up, so I'm just going to go based off that. So I'm just going to drag this off to the side here so you won't be able to see it. So apologies for that. But you can pause the video to take a quick look at it. So it looks like I'm going to do the curb depth is going to be 6 inches. The sub base extension, I have no idea. I'm just going to leave that at 0. The curb bottom grade is going to be 0. The sub base grade will be 0. We'll leave that alone for now. Extension grade 0. Subgrade 1 depth. Maybe we'll add a 1 foot depth for one initial subgrade, just like we did for the middle road. And we're just going to leave that alone for now. The curb material looks like it's going to give us a drop down here, which we're going to be able to select a material for the curb. So ours is going to be concrete, curb, and gutter. And then for layers, I'm just going to assume that this layer 1 of sub base is just going to be, we're just going to put asphalt. Looks like there's a bunch of different types of asphalt you can choose. And they're probably going to use some sort of sub base and not, same type of asphalt they put on the top of the road, but that's okay. The invert of the curb, so here's a bunch of different widths. So it looks like the back of curb for us is going to be 1/2 foot. The top of curb is also going to be 1/2 foot, I believe. So the invert of the curb should be 1.5 feet. So there is going to be like a width here and a slope, which it looks like we can choose any of those, which is really, really nice. So I'm just going to have the invert of the curb be 1.5 feet, or I guess we have to punch in data for all of these. So it's going to be 1.5 feet there, which it really shouldn't be. It should be like 1.25, and I'm just going to make the top of curve 0.25, like that. Okay, and then the depth, it should be at about a slope of 1 inch per foot, which is something like 8%, I believe. So if we just do the quick math here, 1.25 feet times 0.08 is about 0.1. So we'll just put a depth of 0.1. And then this should be, the total height of the top of curve should be about 12 feet. So maybe we'll make this 0.5 again, and those two overlap. So then this back of curb depth should probably also be 0.5 if it was this entire back of curb here, but it doesn't look like that's the case. So we'll just put 0.1 for that guy too, I suppose. The slope here should be about 8%, 0.08. And then going up, the slope is, gosh, I don't even know, probably something really, really high, like 0.9. And then for the back of curb, we're just going to have the slope at 0. We're going to press OK. And it looks like it's going to spit out something for our curb there that doesn't quite look exactly like what we want it to be. So we're going to have to troubleshoot that really quick. So we can go to Edit Curb. Running into an error here. Line 3 as a left duplicate code L. Okay, so after a little bit of troubleshooting and messing with the gutter, I do believe that I got it to work. So I'm just going to go ahead and recreate the curb really quick. So I'm just going to select this Create Curb button here, and then I'm going to punch in for the invert of curb, top of curb, and back of curb. I need 2 out of these 3, width, depth, and slope. And then I need to enter in a code for each of them. So for the top of curb, I'm just going to call it TOC. Back of curb is going to be BOC. Invert of curb, to me that point looks like kind of like the lowest point of the gutter, so I'm just going to call it gutter. For the curb depth, I'm going to go ahead and follow our detail and say that the curb depth is going to be 1/2 foot. The rest of this can typically be 0. The subgrade 1 depth, I'm just going to make 1 foot to match the road that we did. The curb material is concrete, and then the material of the subgrade in the other pre-built templates is FCR Class 2, so I'm just going to select that guy. And then for the width and depth here, just from following our detail, I'm going to punch in the width of this guy as 1.5, the top of curb as 0.083, and then the back of curb is 0.416. The depth can be 0.125 for the invert of the curb, 0.458 for this guy. I'm actually going to delete this guy, or excuse me, delete that guy, and then I'm going to make the slope 0.08, which I believe should be a negative slope. Would make much more sense since it's going that way. So I'm going to make it a negative 0.08, and then for the back of curb, I'm just going to make the slope here, the depth, I'm just going to make it a really small number, like 0.01. So I should have 2 out of the 3 for all of them, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Cool, and then we get a gutter that generates. It doesn't look exactly like our detail, it's a little different. I'll have to play with some of those inputs for those values just to get something that's a little bit more accurate, but for now, I think that this is good enough. So now we're going to create a daylight on the left and right side. So we've got our road with our curb and gutter, and then we're just going to have a daylight on the left and right. So I'm just going to create a daylight on the left. So it's going to say daylight specification, slope daylights for the cut slope. I'm going to have, or cut slope 1, I'm going to make it 2:1, I guess is what it's asking me for, and then 2:1 for the fill slope. Press OK. Cool. And then if I click this little button here, show and cut and show and fill, it should swap, which it does. As you can see, it changes here. So that was for the left side. I'm going to do the right side as well. Slope daylights, I'm going to do 2:1 and 2:1. Press OK. Cool. And then it'll flip-flop as we show in cut versus in fill, which is great. So I'm just going to go ahead and press OK on this template for now. Now looking at the center road, I could add a little bit of a flat area once we go off the road, but I'm just going to leave the daylight there for the time being. So now we have our template created. we have our alignment created, we've got our surface created. We should be able to do to create our road now. So I'm just going to go ahead and go back to this roads tab here, and I'm going to select road string, and I'm going to create / edit a new road string. So it's going to ask me to select the alignment. I'm just going to hit enter so I can pick from a list. I'm going to grab this guy, press OK. Cool, and then it's going to ask me for my template. I'm going to use this guy that I just made, this 27-foot edge of travelway to edge of travelway with a 2-foot curb and gutter. And the surface is going to be this EG surface that we selected. The section sampling is effectively like how often it decides to input a data point. So the higher this number, the more data points it's going to generate, and technically more accurate it's going to be. 25 is what its default as in Civil 3D as well, so we're just going to leave it at 25 for now. I think that that's fine. And then section widths, I'm not exactly sure what the right-of-way would be for this, so I'm just going to do 20 on each side as a 20-foot right-of-way. I'm not sure if this site is all one property together or if there's even going to be a right-of-way, whatever. I'm just going to leave it, we'll leave it at the default 60 on each side and just see what happens. So we'll press OK, and then we're just going to go ahead and hit OK, and it should generate. So as you can see here, it generated these red lines, which looks to be like some sort of construction multi-line here, and then now we have our vertical profile here. So I'm going to hold this guy off to the side so that you can hopefully see both. So what it does when you generate the corridor is, you can't really see it, but it's this yellow line, and it kind of just makes it follow the existing. Basically, it makes a profile for you that follows the existing grade. Well, we don't want to follow the existing grade because obviously you can't, drive a car on some of these crazy wild slopes. So I'm just going to hit this delete all button to start from scratch. In BricsCAD, you're always going to have 2 PIs, essentially one at the beginning and one at the end, and then any in between. So I'm going to hit delete all, and then it's going to just reset with my 1 there and 1 there. And then one of the things about BricsCAD that we've been super impressed with, because I've done a little bit of playing with this so far, is how the corridor and the contours and everything that's generated from creating this road in BricsCAD and Civil Site Design, it basically updates as you do it. So if you see this little green guy right here, you can hardly see it, but I'm going to try to circle with my cursor. Whenever I hover my mouse over the profile, you can see that guy moves back and forth to wherever it is that I'm at on the profile. So you can see here that we're starting down here on this end, and then we're working our way all the way back up to here, and that guy's moving the entire time as we're doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and, oops, I didn't mean to zoom like that. I should be able to reset that with some sort of button here. Give me just a second. No, I don't want that grid thing on. Let's see if I open this guy up to full. Should be this guy. Cool. Okay. So I'm just going to start dropping in PIs here. So we'll maybe drop one in right there. And then put that guy at 986 elevation. And then the rest of that looks fine to me, so I'm just going to go ahead and press OK. And it's going to ask me to click to insert another one, so we're going to have a pretty steep kind of decline downhill this way, like this. I got to reset this guy one more time. Let me just go ahead and, let's just go ahead and full screen this for a second. Go back to that. Okay. As you can see, now that I'm adding PIs, it's starting to update and kind of do the grading in, as you can see here. But I'm just going to continue to add more PIs, so I'm going to have kind of a steeper slope downhill this way. And then I should have kind of a slope up to here, maybe, roughly. And then we're going to have another slope down this way, and then a little bit of a steeper slope down to there, where it's then going to flatten out and tie back in. So now we want to add some curves to these PIs, or rather, add the K. So instead of having to add a curve to the PIs directly, you can kind of just hit this edit or PI edit button, click on it itself, and then you can add the actual K value, which is the K value that you want. So let's say we maybe want a K value of 10 here. Now it's going to add that curvature along that point. I can press OK. Now I can hit this PI edit again, and I can do the same thing, maybe right here. We want a K value of 10, so I can press OK. Okay, and then it's gonna make that K value there. And I'm just gonna continue to do that. This guy, maybe needs a bigger K value of like 20. Same thing here. Maybe this one's 15. That guy can be another 10. Okay, and as you can see here, some of the restrictions that we have is we want our slope at 6% coming in. So, and as you can see, this entire time if you've been watching, the corridor has basically been updating as we're doing it, which is super, super impressive. So I'm going to go ahead and full screen this guy just so I can see a little bit better. I'm going to click this button to move this PI, and you can see the slopes and stuff are changing. So we can come in at 6% about. So maybe like right there, that first one coming into this entrance is about 6%. And then that guy needs to be about 10%, so we might move this guy just a little bit more to get that right down beneath 10%. Cool. Here, we can raise this guy up to be a little bit closer, like that. Okay, and then we can just look at the slopes the entire way here. Obviously, we're reading from left to right, so if you were going from right to left, this would be at about 0.4% slope going up. This guy's a little steep here at close to 8%, so we might grab this guy and move him just to try and kind of reduce that slope a little bit. Cool. And then we maybe might move this guy just to make getting out of this entrance a little bit better. That's going to make that steeper, but that's okay. Cool. So now we've got our vertical profile generated, and if I just close that again, as you can see here, it's basically already spit out a ton of contours, or what looks to be a bunch of contours from our corridor, and as you can see, it's just laid it out the entire way, and changes and edits as we do it, which is really, really, really impressive. So now we just need to figure out how to get the contours out of this generated, what is again a multi-line. So we need to figure out how to get these contours back out of what was generated and turn them back into polylines, which we can then use for our grading plan. So this should all automatically save, so I believe I can just close this, and it's going to wait, and it's going to build, which is perfectly fine. Okay, and then we should be good to go back in here in our BricsCAD. All this stuff came in on its own layers that kind of auto-generate. That's another thing that we're kind of still need to figure out, is how to get stuff to come in on the layers that we want, but that's okay. Okay, after a little bit of more troubleshooting and testing, in order to export these contours, it looks like there's a variety of ways that you can do that. We can use this button here, CAD output, which we can then select, and what that'll do is it'll either do all surfaces or currently displayed surfaces, and it'll output contours as 2D polylines, 3D polylines, etc. Another way that we can, so I'm just going to go ahead and close that for now. We might run that here in just a second. But another way that we can get these contours here out of what was generated from our corridor, or at least change them. So right now they look like 1 foot contours, and it's showing a major contour every 5 feet, and it's in this red and pink color, which is perfectly fine. But we're going to have to open up our tool space. And it looks like all of this multi-line stuff that's generated from the corridor automatically goes to this total model surface that's created by Civil Site Design and can't be deleted whenever you make any sort of Civil Site Design complicated entity. So I'm just going to go to outputs here, and then as you can see here, we have a 5 foot and 1 foot contour. I'm going to change those to 10 foot and 2 feet. And as you can see, they updated here. I can hit update display just to kind of force it to update as well. And then we can change the colors here as well, and also change the layer that these guys come out on. And it looks like we can't quite get them to just simply output polylines, as nice as that would be. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that. Maybe if we click this button right here, creates AutoCAD polylines of contours in the drawing. Let's click that guy right there. Wait just a second, and it looks like, boom, it's created polylines. Perfect. That is perfect. Okay, so if you click this button right there, it's going to make polylines out of your contours that are in the surface that you're currently editing. So I'm just going to close that guy there. We're going to drag our tool space back over. And conveniently, we now have polylines They're also on the same layer, so we can grab all those guys. So I'm going to grab this one polyline and select, and as you can see, those are all the major polylines that got outputted. I'm just going to go ahead and freeze this existing surface once again. Freeze that guy one more time, and I'm going to turn on our existing contours layers just so we can see the existing polylines. So as you can see here, it's having this guy, which is at 980. Obviously, it's the same thing with it's got these little labels here. I'm going to grab these guys and delete those because I don't really want to see those. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of those. But as you can see, it doesn't tie exactly into the location of that contour, but it's pretty close, right? Like right here, it gets super, super close. Here, it's a little bit more off, but it basically does all the grading for you, right? So now we have polylines that are, and I'm just going to go ahead and delete this one just to see if okay, so the whole thing is still under there, which is fine. As you can see, the polyline and then the big M line thing, which is located under. But yeah, now we have polylines that have been outputted from our corridor, which pretty much does all the grading for you pretty accurately. So obviously there's more to be learned from BricsCAD and what's capable with this software, but essentially we just went from nothing, only having the center line of the road, all the way to having our contours output from our surface in what seems to me to be much quicker than Civil 3D. I mean, it happened just like that. So this is obviously very, very promising. We're going to continue to mess with it and put out some more videos. But if you're watching this, please feel free to mess with BricsCAD and Civil Site Design to see if you can figure out some better workflow processes to continue to improve our speed and quality of design.